transform our entire organization into a community of men and women. We never stop.
Particular ranking system.
We never stop.
Why is it
We
always
don't sleep,
back?
because we have a lot. We don't sleep.
I welcome each of you here in this summit, and I thank you for celebrating your essence with us today. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Hero Ed TV. This is the official Hero Summit TV station broadcasting through the internet. It carries original weekly series of live conversations and interviews hosted by yours truly, with the dynamic support from Mr. Nico Chopra, our President for International Partnerships, and with unbridled Hero members coming from the academe in different regions of the world. We continuously tread an unfamiliar terrain. 2020 has been a difficult balancing act for a lot of schools, or maybe for all schools and their leaders. And the challenge is far from being over. We all need to toughen up. We all need to be more courageous, to be more agile, and to be more reflective. Hero Summit performs a kind of support as we premiere this platform that allows all of us to witness an inspiring conversation. It could be difficult, but we need to talk about these issues. So this is an internet media broadcast that offers the finest exchange of ideas, interviews with heroes in the education realm, and this will be our common platform for thriving. This afternoon, for our encore episode, I am just so fortunate to be with a respected priest for more than 26 years. He has served in holy orders and was an educator in both San Beda, Alabang and St. Andrew's School in the Diocese of Parañaque. In San Beda, Alabang, he had been part of the committee that approved revisions in the mission statement and is now the 11th Rector President. I am referring to no other than Reverend Father Gerard Maria de Villa. Father, good afternoon.
To be part of Hero. Thank you so much for the invitation.
It's an honor, Father. I always ask the yes question, so thank you so much for saying yes. Right. Father, it's been a while. We haven't been really in active communication since the pandemic hit. I would just like to know how are things with you from maybe the personal level. How are you, Father?
Well, I can't really say everything has been running smoothly, but one thing for sure is that I'm very thankful that I'm able to be with you here in relative good health, despite what's afflicting so many people, not just in our country, but in the world, because of the COVID-19. Personally, I have been doing my best to comply with all the health and safety protocols, both of our local and national government has been telling us to observe. it hasn't been easy because our mobility, as you can see us at school, uh, we we are confined, to the four walls of our campus, and we are not as much able to reach out, at least physically. We're still getting used to reaching out through this virtual platform of video conferencing and whatnot, and we're all adjusting. So it hasn't been easy, but yet I'm thankful for being healthy enough to continue on serving as a priest and also as an educator.
Wonderful. Yeah, I think that's the blessing that cannot.
Indeed.
Yeah, we really have to say thank you to all of this wonderful. The health that we enjoy and the wonderful insights that also we gain every day, knowing that we are not in control and yet somebody is, right? That's God. So thank you so much for sharing, Father. Father, I'm excited because for our encore episode, we are discussing and we will be talking about how do schools prepare and thrive through the VUCA world, right? We've been talking about VUCA world and all of this since this word came to being, right? Since I remember hearing about this 4 years ago, I guess. And you'll never really understand it if until it stares you in the face. You know what I mean?
True.
Right? This is for me the closest I got to the VUCA world kind of feeling. So I don't have a school to speak, but I have partners, and all my partners are within the academic realm, and I know the challenges. I hear it on a personal level and on a kind of uh, maybe secondhand news or firsthand information, but I have felt your concerns and the challenges that our partners from the academy had also experienced. So I hope we will be helping out as much as inspiring education leaders like yourself as we discuss this particular question, Father. How do schools thrive and prepare themselves through the VUCA world? I have my first question, Father, if you allow me. Right. We would like to pick from your brain, Father.
Go on, please. Yes, thank you.
Father, what are the factors? What are the factors, the VUCA factors that are impacting our schools today?
Yes. Before I directly answer the question, I'd like to put into context our VUCA environment. We all know that the pandemic has placed the world in a VUCA environment.
Yes.
It's the pandemic that created all of this. And the VUCA, we also all know, is an acronym. No?
Yes.
It's an acronym that helps us understand the problem. As educators, we were all thrown practically overnight last March of 2020 into a kind of war zone that has made us realize how volatile, how uncertain, how complex, and how ambiguous our environment has become because of the pandemic.
That's right.
From what we went through last March, of 2020 was something totally unexpected. I think everyone will agree to that. No, we had to change our course of action from whatever we had planned out to do, to something different, even radically different, because of how VUCA is changing our situation. We can't even define the kind of change that's happening because it's so volatile. It's changing.
Sure.
And as educators, we know how we had to contend with the implementation of, because the very first effect, what VUCA really brought us into was to be forced to get out of our classroom, which is the main a venue for learning in schools, at least in formal education. No? We had to contend with the implementation of delivering our services, which is primarily education, the the learning, the learning of our students, the formation, the holistic educational formation of a person. You know, schools had to identify last March. You know, we had to identify those factors that would impact our service to society, and in our particular case, service to the church as a Catholic school. And what I did was, so when we heard from the president, no, who went on national TV on that fateful day, when he announced to the country that the whole of Metro Manila and the whole of Luzon would go on a virtual lockdown. Of course, we turned it. We did we didn't use the term lockdown. We used enhanced community quarantine, maybe to soften the impact to the people. No, but it was the same thing. No, people were not allowed to leave their homes. Schools were closed. In-person learning was discontinued. And immediately I thought to myself, what will happen? Are our teachers prepared? You know, or shall we continue learning? We had to make a decision, no, whether we would heed what other quarters in society were advocating, mass promotion, that we should stop because everybody's in an emergency situation. We should be more concerned with the health and safety of all our teachers, our students. Therefore, learning in this environment didn't seem to be relevant. But fortunately, I was able to convene the school administrators to an emergency meeting, and this is exactly what we addressed. No, we had to come up practically overnight with a continuity plan with these factors, addressing these factors, these three factors that we knew would impact our main apostolate, which is education, the holistic educational formation of the person. So what are these three? First and foremost, the health and safety of all. You know, and this especially even before the IATF released all those points that we should really consider for the health and safety of all. We were also particularly concerned about the mental health, of everyone, our students, our teachers. Like how would they be able to cope with this sudden change? So the health and safety of all. That's why initially, we really understood the importance of observing, the health protocols, wearing a face mask, practicing social distancing, avoiding crowds and all that. And once we took cognizance of that, we looked also on the how we would deliver. First, we had to make a decision. Will we continue classes? Because if you recall, this happened, I think, the last quarter of last school year.
Yes.
Towards the last quarter of last school year, so we were still on the third grading period and the fourth grading period.
Yes.
We had just practically started the second semester, and then now that we are towards the last stretch of the school year, classes had to be discontinued. Nobody was allowed on campus. So where would the learning take place? So how would we deliver? And parents also had to. Parents were asking questions. Sometimes no longer in the right frame of mind. Many of them were disappointed because some of them felt that we weren't concerned about their health and safety. Because eventually we decided on continuing classes, delivering classes, but how? Because this would now have to be with the use of technology and the infrastructure, not just on campus, but to our teachers and our students have the infrastructure and the technology to deal with the distance learning. Okay, and then training of teachers and staff. So these factors, the health and safety of all, and this especially includes mental health and screening of our teachers. And how these would all impact now the new way of doing things, of delivering. So I would identify these as the factors that to this day impact our schools in this VUCA world. And because we had to learn how to do Zoom, we had to really maximize the utilization of our learning management system. San Beda naman has been blessed with an IT infrastructure that can meet the demands of distance learning. But to be honest, we were not prepared because prior to the pandemic, it wasn't explored as much. It wasn't a very popular way of delivering instruction. We were like biding our time, maybe waiting for the environment to actually demand distance learning, where we can get out of the classroom, and continue classes anywhere, practically, virtually anywhere. But I think the reason why many schools, were caught flat-footed when we had to go and maximize the use of technology in delivering education is because that was the way it was. Learning always was in a campus, inside a classroom, inside laboratories. Of course, we had on-the-job training in the real world, but most of the hours are spent, especially in basic education, are spent on campus, inside the classroom or the laboratory. So how are we going to train our teachers? Do we have the technology and the infrastructure? And then the health and safety of everybody, how do we incorporate that in our planning for continuing education? But I don't know, not just looking back, I don't know how we managed. I think we managed because we possess certain characteristics, that helped us adjust. I think these are the talents that God gave us that we made use of. And I think that's a blessing because we were able to hurdle the last quarter of last school year with practically no preparation.
It's a live drill. It's a real-time drill.
Exactly. Exactly. Like assessments. So how would the exams, how were they going to be? But we managed. All the academic heads immediately uh, adapted.
Mm-hmm.
They adapted, maybe because they possessed already certain qualities that made them able, that made them, able to be to do these things, to adjust, and therefore address these factors: the health and safety, the technology infrastructure, the training of our teachers. I really focus on them. Of course, there are other factors that have an impact on our schools today, simply because we are still in this VUCA environment, which probably will change, which will probably have a last, it's like when you have a wound, and a scar is left, you'll have to deal with that scar for the rest of your life. I think, and maybe change the way you see yourself and the way other people see you, the way you have to take care of yourself. I think that's what's happening to schools. So there are other factors though, but these three to me, are the factors that greatly impact. We always we continuously look at, to check whether we are able to stand. Kasi any of these factors that we any of these factors that we miss out on would be detrimental to the school's existence.
Yes.
We can't take lightly
That's right.
these factors that truly impact our schools today. I don't know if that helps.
Yes, of course. Father, you mentioned about
These are the factors that I see.
Yes, Father, and I totally agree with you. I know that our school leaders definitely resonate with all of this that you've mentioned.
Thank
But
you.
you mentioned about volatility, and I think that's a description of how our year, our first quarter really started. I'm just curious, Father, from your point of view as a school leader and as a priest at the same time, how could this volatility in our current situation be used to work for our advantage or to our advantage, not disadvantage?
Well, the volatility, the volatility actually helps us, helps us become focused. When you're put into a situation where things change so abruptly, or where things are, you can't stay and rest complacent because things will change. They're very volatile. This kind of helps you become more focused on what you're doing. I'd like to look at the volatility of the situation in terms of, I don't know if you've ever experienced having a vertigo. You see everything moving,
Right.
and it not only makes busy, but you can't stand. You can't stand because everything is moving,
Yes.
everything is changing.
That's right.
And so the only way for you to be able to to get yourself together is to focus. So the current challenge, of this volatile world makes us more determined to be focused on our strategic goals, that are firmly anchored on our vision and mission. So, um, how do we make volatility? How do we? How can volatility uh, as a challenge be used to our advantage? I think just facing it and being more determined to be focused on your the goals that you've set for your school, um, which are of course anchored on your vision and your mission,
Yes.
and also it helps us approach this chaos, no, with a creative dynamism.
Mhm.
It's like all of a sudden you become aware
Yes.
of what you have to be able to face the challenge. I'd like to think that this is something that happens automatically in people who are positively charged.
Mhm.
Because I have to admit, no, there are times, no, when you can be overwhelmed,
Mhm.
by the chaos that's happening around. And if you're not positively charged, you'll just allow yourself um, to be taken over
Mhm.
by all these changes, to do nothing, in other words.
Mhm.
But the volatility of the current challenge really awakens in us certain qualities that allow us to be more focused and to be more creative.
That's right. I like
That's if we are positively,
charge.
if we're positively charged.
Sure.
And then that will also depend on who we are as a person and how we believe in ourselves as a person. I think focus and creativity
Right.
are the things that come out in people when they see themselves in a situation, in a VUCA situation.
Yeah. I totally
Yes.
agree. Yeah. I totally agree. Focus. I like it, Father, when you use vertigo as your analogy, right? You just have to, when you're dizzy and you're having all of this
Mhm.
episode, the first thing you'll do is you'll have to look for something to hold on to, right? Kasi feel mo mabubuwal ka eh, right?
Yeah.
So
To anchor
you
yourself.
anchor yourself. I think
That's true. Yeah.
I think
Uh-huh.
that's the thing, no? When we face this volatility, this VUCA environment as a whole, we just have to hold on to something just to anchor ourselves so we will not become part of the chaos, right?
That's
We
true. Yeah.
I think that's very very
Mhm.
important, and I appreciate leaders like you who would know that focus and creativity would definitely let them lead forward rather than
Yeah.
bickering, because I know that when this happened, instead of, for some, right, for families, instead of like looking into what to do and become positively charged about the situation, they would start to bicker, they would start to get overwhelmed, lead their lives,
Mhm.
allowing overwhelm to lead their lives. So it's good that you mentioned these two wonderful gifts that we are celebrating today: focus and creativity. We will not be here, Father,
Right.
having this conversation when we didn't
Uh,
have that. I agree with that. I totally agree with that.
True. Yeah.
Right.
And just to add on where we felt as a school we needed to anchor ourselves, I had to convene the admin council.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Actually, when before President Duterte actually put the whole of Metro Manila and the whole of Luzon on lockdown,
Mm-hmm.
he first, if you mentioned, the first announcement was to suspend classes.
Yes.
To suspend classes, just so that to avoid students being in the classroom where transmission is is very high.
Yes.
The risk of transmission is very high. Uh, but didn't still close the schools. No, I immediately had to call an emergency admin council meeting. No, and I don't know what I don't know. In retrospect now, I siguro parang it was automatic. No? I had to anchor. I had to put the anchor down because maybe I was expecting that na we were going to go on the lockdown and all that. But ask our school administrators to already come up with a continuity plan, given the scenario that we will be facing, and that we should not lose focus on our goals. At that time, we were actually already reviewing our vision, mission. So it really was an opportune time, no? And this VUCA situation that we were all thrown into made us immediately put our anchors on our goals, no? Our vision, our mission as a school. If it weren't for that, siguro we would have probably thought na maybe we should discontinue learning. Because if you recall, diba, even there were groups that were for mass promotion. There were
Academic
groups
freeze.
na hindi kaya, how can you continue learning with this in this environment? No, you should just stop, focus on your health and safety, and then bahala na, no? Bahala na. So we stuck to our vision, no? We thought, the teachers thought, the administrators thought na I'm sure there's a way that learning can continue despite this chaotic world. It's just how we would adapt to the changes, no? And so we were focused on our goals. We were focused on our vision and mission, and because our vision and mission really held education and the delivery of our service, we held tenaciously on that, and so that made us creative. No? It made us determined to approach this chaos with a creative dynamism that resulted in our business continuity plans, our learning continuity plans. No? Even if we weren't sure about how stable our technology and infrastructure were, even if we weren't sure how much training our teachers could had or have to be able to pull this together, because we also had teachers who were not very receptive, to continuing classes, no? Kasi nga, they sort of lacks that kind of dynamism. But fortunately, we had more dynamic teachers than those who were less inclined. And that force, that creativity, was developed in the midst of this volatility. It awakened our focus and our creativity. That's just what I wanted to say. And I think many schools that continued, are glad that they did. I'm happy that Ed continued. Kahit na there were times na they were being criticized also. And many schools, students were angry, diba? But this even made us more focused on our vision and our mission. When people tried to blur it, we tried to clear, the blurry vision that people had, and our creativity helped.
That's right.
We didn't realize we can be very creative pala, in the use of technology.
That's good.
And respond immediately to the improvement of our infrastructures.
That's true.
And so on and so forth. So its focus and creativity were born out of this challenge, this volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous world.
I keep saying this, Father, and I want to say it again. This pandemic is too good a crisis to waste, right? It's too good a crisis to
Right.
waste, right? So, all right. Anyway, Father, I'll be having a little pause as I allow our audience to also see what San Beda College Alabang is and who you are as an organization and as a school. I have this video for everybody to at least have a virtual idea in case they haven't visited your campus yet, what you have and what you stand for as a school.
Thank
Watch
you.
this, please.
San Beda College Alabang, home of the Red Lions, was built for an existing reason, bloomed creating an institution known for sculpting students to be the best version of themselves. Being one of the best at creating and developing excellence, shaping successful and inspiring citizens in our country. Together, being guided by the ways and teachings of our Lord, and putting to life our mission and vision, inspired by the works of Saint Benedict, their long line of history gave the school the respect and trust of many people. In 2015, the San Beda College Alabang School of Law was named by the Legal Education Board as one of the top 10 law schools of the Philippines. Up until today, San Beda is still one of the top schools in the NCR, and we can still see the success of the school in all different fields and still upholds the Benedictine tradition of excellence. In San Beda, we reach for greatness.
Address, of course, the worldview now of the soldiers, of the people that were at war, etc., etc.
That's right.
And then how it's affecting the economies of nations, etc., etc. So,
Yes, Father.
may approach din ng yun nga, ang military, ang government, no, ang economies on VUCA.
That's right. Father.
Kaya yung sa akin, what I'm sharing is what the schools, we're in a different volatile world. It's not economic. It's not purely economic. Although there are economic factors.
Yes, Father.
It's more, and it's not about it's not like we're in a war where the operations stop or
Yes,
should
Father.
stop, like education. Kasi kung nasa war context ka, talagang walang education. Hindi talaga
That's right.
pwede.
Of course.
Kasi either nabomba na yung paaralan mo or
Right.
namatay yung mga teachers and students, you wouldn't be thinking of going to school. So it's a different kind of war.
That's right.
And so what I'm sharing is, a different kind of volatility that's happening in
Yes.
schools,
That's
affected
right.
by the pandemic.
We're back, Father. We're back on screen. I'd be requesting your video, Father. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Right. Yeah, I agree with you totally, Father. I mean, war would have different faces and different approach, definitely, right? Through that, when you were sharing, VUCA really was like what Simon Sinek keeps telling that it really was for the military basically. I heard that from him as well. But then again, everybody is definitely facing this, and every organization and every department or in every kind of what you call that, corporate, school, or whatever organizations we belong to, we now have this looking at us straight to our faces. Kaya depende yun sa approach, depende yun sa leadership, I think, depende on the enlightenment and the wisdom that is given to the leader to lead the organization. I trust the wisdom given to a leader in making everybody win through the
Yeah.
VUCA world. Yes, Father. Father, complexity, of course, volatility is part of this complexity thing. But when you talk about complexity per se, when we're talking about complexity per se, how can complexity serve us rather than hurt us? If it's a complex situation, which we now have at this particular time, how can it serve us than hurt us? What do we do?
Yeah. When things become complicated, no, I'd like again to explain this through experience. No? Ako, personal experience. When things become complicated, I take it as an opportunity, actually, to learn. No? I take it as an opportunity to learn because the more complex an organism or an organization is, I believe, we are given more ways to learn.
Yes.
The more we learn, the more we become better individuals.
Right.
So if we don't live in a complex world, we can't say we develop into learned individuals. The complexity of an organism or an organization means that we have more ways to learn. And the more we learn, the better we become.
Yes.
The better we become. So it's like schools, diba? When we progress from one grade level to the next, and we're happy. I mean, I won't say, for example, if I were a parent and then a school will teach, for example, the math operations, the basic operations, and will not go beyond the basic operations, the basic mathematical operations, addition, subtraction, multiplication, division. The child will not be able to become an engineer. Diba? Because he will have the child will not have graduated from simple things to more complex things. So that's what I'm saying. The more complex an organism is, so the more complex our world becomes. Rather than look at it negatively, no, parang ang hirap naman ito. How am I going to understand this? No, if we look at it as the more ways we can learn, then we become better individuals. Because learning empowers us to be what we were made to be by the Creator, in whose image and likeness we are.
Yes, agree.
One of the things, this is I'm going to be a little theological here, because I'm a priest, and that's my field. No? It's theology, but I can learn. I think the world can learn from theological concepts. No? But one of the things that the theological ideas that kind of makes me wonder why when we say God is a simple being, no. And then here I am talking about the wonders of complexity. Why can't we say God is a complex being? Because that's how exactly we, and it should be the other way around. We should be the simple beings, and God should be the complex being. If I follow my logic, complexity makes us learn more. We become better. And for me, kasi, the more complex, the better. Right. That's one that's one perspective. So, how does the complexity of things happening around us in this VUCA world serve us rather than help us? It makes us learn. Because learning makes us better. And we were made in God's image and likeness. So, ayun na nga, why is God simple and not complex? But then, of course, there's another theological idea that will say God is simple because the simplicity of God cannot match the complexity of man. In other words, the simplicity of God cannot be grasped at all by man, because to man he will be the most complex, therefore the most learned. And this is a reflection of, we are a reflection of God, a creator, who has absolute knowledge of everything, because he is the source of knowledge. And how do we improve on knowledge? By studying, understanding the complexity of things. But then, to God, that's all simple, because he is a simple being. A complex organism, like the human body, for example. The human body is a composite of interdependent systems with varied functionalities. We all studied that in biology. The nervous system, the circulatory system, the digestive system, the nervous system, that all make up this composite of the highest of all of God's creatures, which is the human person, made in his image and likeness. So a complex organism such as ourselves is a composite of interdependent systems with varied functionalities. But complex as it is, the complexity forces us to understand the nature and purpose of individual systems that make the complex whole. So for you to be able to understand and appreciate the beauty of the human body, the more you understand the complexity of it, the better appreciation you have. So the more I understand the complexity of this VUCA world, the more appreciation I have for it, because it makes me learn. It increases my knowledge of things and how to make things better.
But there are...
I don't know if I'm if you can see my drift here.
Yes,
how does complexity serve us rather than hurt us?
Yeah. I ask this, Father, because I know that when things become complex, somehow it's always associated to complicated, right? Things become complicated.
Difficult.
It doesn't have to be, but our attitude, sometimes our biology will also tell us that it's complex, it can be complicated. And I know that schools, of course, this is not me saying it, but from what we've observed, the academe takes the slowest leap to changes. We're not the first to embrace change. Tayo yung may pinakahuling development sa technology in all the industries. Schools, right? So mas mahirap tayong embrace ng interconnected complexities, because we get overwhelmed knowing that there's a lot of things that we do inside, internal factors, there are demands from the agency we work for, right? Things like that. Now, that's leading me to this is the reason why I am led to this question. How can we, like what you said, and which I agreed, completely true, right? We just have to embrace it, that it is part of our learning, and as we learn, then definitely we grow as individuals. I think I agree with that, and I hope our friends listening, in this conversation right now would start having that kind of enlightenment. Na this is part of my advancement. Every time I am given such a complex situation, I'm in a complex situation, I advance myself, right? And
yes. It's it's a mindset. You have to have a mindset. Now, when you are faced with a complexity, you don't allow yourself to be swallowed by it.
Yeah.
You have to conquer it. I think you have to conquer it. It's just like a problem. A problem, is an agent really that makes life complicated. Di ba pagka nagka-problema tayo, we always say things become complicated, no?
Right.
Because there's a problem. Pero we weren't made to be overcome by the problem. We were given intelligence.
Yes.
Diba? We were given intelligence. So and schools are agents, of developing the capacity to learn in our students. So yeah, you're correct though. I understand, that why is it ironically that we are the last of the industries
Yes.
to develop? Maybe because we are not equipping ourselves with maybe because of our we're lacking in creativity, maybe we're lacking in focus. That's why it's good, to always begin with focus and creativity. And with focus and creativity, we are able to have that mindset, that life is continuously learning, learning how to make sense of this complex world. And it is the complexity that will make us really understand why things are, how they work, what can be done, so that they can produce more benefits to the development of not just the individual but of societies, and the world. So it's for me, I welcome complex. I mean, the schools should always expect that we cannot take the easy path. When we're in school, because that's the nature of progression. Things become more complex as we grow. Things become more complex, not the other way around. That's not nature. Nature is always things become more complex because it wants to challenge us. To what extent can we really be like God? No. So it's like drawing us to be God, who is siguro the ultimate complexity of it all. But in the knowledge of God, it's simple because He's God. Only He can make sense of all this complexity. And we are trying to make sense of all the complexities in the world. That's why even if namong problema tayo, we should still be able to stand and face the complex reality of everything. Otherwise, we'll be eaten up by the complexity and disappear before we know it.
That's true.
Learning stops, therefore. Learning will stop. But for me, kasi learning is always getting ahead of the complex reality. I hope that makes sense, no? Like the human body, we're a composite of all these interdependent systems with varied functionalities. If we only know one system, we might do harm to the other systems.
Yes.
Kasi yun lang ang alam natin. Diba? That's why before, I don't know, sometimes when I go to the doctor, ako ayoko sa specialist minsan kasi baka sa sobrang specialized lang siya sa isang area.
Okay.
He's doing harm na to the other areas. Pero I trust the old doctors who know everything. They have a better appreciation, a higher form of learning than those who are extremely specialized, unless, and this is where I appreciate doctors who really work as a team, and usually that's the case naman. In better hospitals. Hospitals are better equipped when all the fields, you have doctors in all the fields. Hindi pupunta kasi sa hospital, ay wala kaming ganitong department, so you have to transfer. Pero the hospital itself is complete. Parang school, dapat complete siya. At least in terms of developing the skills that will make the student develop the others. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
So everything is complex. Wala naman madali. And I think that's the reality. Because the more complex a thing is, the more the more we learn, and the more we learn, the better we become.
Totally agree, Father. I totally agree. I would just like to allow one question to come in, Father, coming from our President for International Partnership for Hero, Mr. Nikhil Chopra, all the way from India, is asking this question. Father, do you think schools or colleges have a long-term plans to include technology-driven teaching even when the pandemic is over? And do you also believe as an educator that teachers now believe the power of teaching through technology? That's a question.
I think we'll have to face the fact that this is something that we cannot turn our backs to. No, technology and harnessing the potential of technology in education. But I'm not saying that in-person learning, learning with, in the traditional setup is something that can be replaced or dispensed by technology. Now, should schools have a long-term development plan of technology and the infrastructure that's demanded by the use of this technology? Yes. We should have, because we don't know if we will be really able to defeat this virus with the vaccine. First of all, even if we do have a period of respite from the pandemic, which will enable us to go to in-house setup. In-person setup in schools, etc. What about the technology that can complement in person? That needs to develop. Earlier, I was saying I don't want to say I'm happy that all of a sudden there was a pandemic and then all of a sudden we were thrown into this VUCA world where schools have to be closed. I'm not happy actually, but if I look back, it helped us in a sense develop our infrastructure, develop our technology. In the future, yes, this may be a respite, but if it happens again, that there will be another pandemic, we don't know how long it will last. It could last for more than. We're not yet out of the pandemic, actually. No, we really don't know if it will last for another couple of years or extend even to a decade. We can't afford to lose time and not use the resources, the technological resources that are available. So will we start from scratch? Hindi na. Not anymore, because we do have developed, things became complex. Things have become complex at this point in time. But because we never stop learning, we are able to overcome that complex reality until the next complexity, until the next VUCA sprouts.
That's right.
Every now and then we'll have a peacetime. We'll have peacetime. This is probably our generation, at least my generation. Unlike my parents' generation, they had to go through a world war, a literal world war experience. Now that was that was their VUCA.
Yes.
Our VUCA is this.
That's right.
This is our VUCA. So schools should have long-term plans, developing constantly technology and infrastructure for the benefit and the purpose of making sure that learning never stops. I'm sorry, I lost track of the other question.
The
training of teachers.
Yeah, the training of teachers, Father. Do you think that teachers are ready, or have they embraced technology as a way to go, kind of thing? That's a question.
Yeah, I'd like to think that teachers, I'd like to think more in terms of the openness of teachers, because really, I wasn't prepared myself, no, to learn all of this Zoom. And Bryce, you also mentioned earlier that when you had to change platforms, to virtual platforms like this, you had to learn.
Yeah, from zero.
Yeah, from zero.
From
like
zero.
like me, I had to learn. We had to experiment with so many things, and it's just like the teachers. They have to have this mindset. That they. It's not a question of are they prepared. It's a question more on how should they prepare. Because there's no other way but to have that mindset. No, there's no other way but to prepare. We can say, I'm not prepared, therefore, I'm not going to do anything. Or I'm going to take the easy way out and say, let's just mass promote everybody for this year because we can't learn without going to the classroom and having our kids physically in front of us, etc. But it's a VUCA world. This is the situation. We have to make the best out of what we can do just so that learning won't stop. At least schools won't discontinue its service. They have to be open first because there's no question about the need to be trained.
Yes.
And if they are not open to it, then they better decide on not being part of a school. Because what else will they do?
If you don't
Right?
shape up, ship out, kind of thing, Father. Shape up or
Yeah,
ship
something
out.
to that, or ship out. But we have to encourage them. We have to make them realize the value of having this mindset of opening themselves to training. Some people will cite reasons. I'm old already, or in a few years I'm going to retire. Then it's really a decision that they have to make. But I hope that they wouldn't stop people or they wouldn't drag people along with that kind of thinking that they can't do anything because this is the present situation. Again, things have become complex, but unless we face it and are open to, unless we look at complexity as an opportunity to learn, we will eventually end up being eaten up by the complexity and maybe become part of the complex problem that other people will have to face. And so I'll have to find a solution to, how do I solve a problem like Maria, for example? That Sound of Music movie, the nuns were having a problem with one of their postulants because she didn't want to follow the rules.
That's right. I know. Yeah, I know that movie,
Okay.
Father. We're on the same Father. Kahit papano,
So-
same generation. My kids have seen that movie too.
So are they? Yeah, yeah. So are they? Are the teachers trained? Well, if they're not, they ought to be. And they have to have a mindset that's open to learning. More tricks of the trade.
Yeah. So at this time,
So I
Father,
hope I was able to answer.
certainly, Father, certainly. So at this point, Father, with all the VUCA, with this VUCA environment and with all the things that we have experienced, have we changed the qualifications of leaders to lead schools? So what do we need as leaders for schools right now? Do we need to upgrade these qualifications? Do we need to have a different kind of mindset for leaders? Because definitely this is an unprecedented territory, right, for a leader to navigate at this given time. What do you think, Father?
Well, in terms of from the time of the first complexity in human history emerged. The same qualities that people had to overcome these complexities are true to this day. No, uh, uh, Although we probably need to do some restructuring and adaptation to the situation, uh, we still should have the same qualities. And what are these qualities? What are these qualities? In the context, I would like to explain it in the context of education, as what we are in. Um, the qualities of being focused and creative, being agile and flexible, being patient and compassionate. I think the last one, patient and compassionate, are qualities of a leader. This last quality, it's patience that's combined with compassion, will help help keep the team together.
Right.
Kasi hindi naman pwede ako lang yung focused and creative, di ba? It's not, hindi lang pwede ako yung agile and flexible. But I have to be patient with my team players, my teammates, because we all have different paces. We have to be compassionate. We have to understand them, lest they lose hope and not become a team player. But and I think these are the same qualities that enabled human societies to thrive. When they are brought into a VUCA world. The leader has to be the model and example of being focused and creative. The leader has to be the example of being agile, and flexible, and has to model patience and compassion. Of course, intelligence, and that's all given because we're given intelligence naman, lahat naman tayo. But I think these qualities that support our intelligence, that support our intelligence, basically, our integrity, should be those that I've mentioned. The focused. If the leadership kasi is not just on one person, although sometimes it's an individual that draws the team together, diba? But if you look at it, it's really the corporate whole, emanating from the leader that enables an organization, to flourish in a VUCA world. So, what kind of a leader do schools need most now in the VUCA environment? A leader who's focused and creative, a leader that's agile and flexible, a leader that's patient and compassionate, who doesn't easily give up.
Right.
No, those are the and have they changed? No, I think these are the qualities, the kind of leaders that from the very start enabled the human society to flourish in a peaceful world, in a world that truly reflects who we are, as God's, the crowning glory of God's creation. After all, we're made in His image and likeness.
I agree. Yeah. when you say patience, Father, just out of curiosity, how do you define? I know from a priest mindset, but how do you define this patience as a leader of an organization like San Pedro?
Yeah.
How is it done or shown in
Yeah,
operations?
okay, good.
Right, in operations. I'm just curious.
Yeah. You see, the patience, the quality of being patient is really something that helps us not to give up easily. Patience to learn
All right.
from maybe wrong decisions. I have to be patient and understanding. And I don't have to rush things also unnecessarily. No, I don't have to rush things unnecessarily. So this is kasi sometimes leaders sa pagmamadali nila, no, they want immediate, no.
Yes.
They drive their team, they drive the team, no, beyond their capacities, to be productive, no. So that's what I mean by patience, Yeah, I need to be strong. I need to, put my foot forward if necessary. But I should be patient. That's how I look at it. No? A leader is helpful if it doesn't drive the team to work so hard beyond their capacity. Of course, if we kasi naman if we build their capacities, no, then maybe we can expect things to run smoothly. But that's not the case, especially in the VUCA world, because we're all in a situation we didn't expect this to happen. So we have to be patient. That's what I mean. I don't know if I'm getting my drift across, if you're getting my drift here, but that's patience, so that we don't drive our team to our disadvantage, in terms of what they can contribute, because we're always in a hurry to get things done.
So patience and tolerance, more or less, Father.
Yeah. It could be tolerance, but not lax.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Not condoning mediocrity to a point.
Exactly.
Right.
Not condoning mediocrity, but maybe using patience to improve the outputs also of others.
I totally agree. The reason why I asked that, Father, is because my professor back in the Ateneo kinda posted a very nice thought just recently. I'm referring to Prof. J. Bernardo. Sabi niya dito, just to quote, I hate waiting, right? So he presented, sabi niya, today I got reminded of 3 people who influenced me the most. Sabi niya, their thoughts and all of this. So he named these 3 people. The first person hated waiting. He taught me, he said, that not to wait for anyone, including him. I recall him saying, time is so precious, so no man should wait for another man for more than 15 minutes. Alright? In meetings with him, if he is late for more than 15 minutes, you are allowed to leave the conference room or his office without disrespect to him. But if you stay, he would even question why you waited, and he would say, don't you have better use of your time? Things like that. The second one, he mentioned another name, of course, a professor, my guru, Dr. Morato. As people called him, Edmo, taught us to value and respect time. He will never compromise on deadlines and rarely give extensions. Uncompromising on deliverables according to time. He values people with time integrity. Thus, while working with him, you need to protect that dearly. Being accountable not only to quality output but precise time as well. And then he mentioned his father. he said that his father naman approaches waiting on the operations perspective. That every time you see someone waiting on every waiting line, he said, there are ways to improve processes and make things more efficient. That people hate waiting, thus you need to find ways of streamline operations and find better and faster ways to do it, right? Then that is when waiting is involved. It indicates that there is an opportunity to change the way things are currently done to improve better. So, because waiting is patience. Pag sinasabi nila, I'm so patient, I can wait for you. I can wait for you to submit whatever, etc., etc. So, and as leaders, sometimes that's our issue. Kasi I remember there was this exercise that I got myself in one of the seminars I've attended, Father. Very creative way to find out how different we approach time as leaders compared to those who support our offices. So I was subjected with this activity together with my admin staff, right? Parang they showed us a clip on a video, and then they made us guess as leaders, as CEOs, how many minutes did that video run. So all of us said that's more than 3 minutes. All right? So all of us said that's more than 3 minutes. And then the same video was shown to our staff. Okay? And our staff said that video is almost close to 8 minutes. So 5 minutes, 5 minutes difference, right? And then when the real video, when the time was revealed, it was close to 8 minutes, and our staff actually were right. Kami naman ng mga heads, of course we have a different mabilis yung oras sa atin, right? Just because. So relative ang time. Sabi nga nila, to those who wait for somebody 5 minutes is long, but to the one who's rushing to a meeting and is not ready, 5 minutes is too short, right?
It's
So
too short.
it's really relative. So
Right.
that's why I was just curious, how is
Yeah.
Father Gerard approaching patients operationally as well in this situation?
Bryce, I have a bias to confess, no? When
And that's
when
okay.
I understand, when I look at the virtue of patience, no, in relation to time,
Right.
because my bias, in relation to time, I have a bias towards time because there are two concepts of time. I think you will be aware of this, no? The chronos time, which is the movement of moment to moment.
Yes.
That's the chronos, like chronological time.
Right.
And then you have the sense of the kairos time,
Okay. I don't
which
know.
is the kairos time is really the present.
Oh, okay.
Okay, it's really how things are.
Okay.
So it's not a chronology of events that make you wait. Kasi patience, this is my bias as a virtue, it shouldn't make you wait. Patience should make you appreciate growth, should make you appreciate the present time.
Okay.
Okay, and in the present, when you don't have a sense of moment to moment, which is our nature, as opposed to eternity. Sa eternity, walang moment to moment, di ba? It's all present. No wonder the Lord was saying, why do you worry about the past? Why do you worry about the future when both are not present? Di ba? And you cannot keep on worrying of things that are there outside of your ambience, which is the present, and eternity is present. So when it's patient and compassionate, a leader should be able to live on the 8th day of the week, in other words, and see how things unfold naturally. Again, that's my bias. Other people might not share that bias. But if you take it outside of chronos, you'll probably appreciate patience. After all, this world is passing. Diba? I don't mean naman to say na walang meaning. This world doesn't have meaning. But what I'm saying lang is the higher truth that everything will pass away.
Yes.
Everything will pass away. One of the stories that that I really have always thought of, never left my mind when I was being trained as a monk, as a priest. I'm basically, my priesthood is basically a monastic. No?
Okay.
So we are Benedictine monks. No? And one of our novice masters, although he was a Spaniard, he would always approach a troubled monk, by saying, "Don't worry, time is eternal." In other words, God is patient. So I'm worried. Sometimes you say, "I'm worried because I might not make it." I'm worried because, etc., etc. But when he would console the monk and say, "Don't worry, time is eternal." He's not saying that you're no longer governed by submission of things, di ba? But he's referring to a higher reality.
Yeah.
If you're not able to do it, even if you tried your best to meet the deadline, that's not the end of the world. Because time is eternal.
Right.
Anyway,
Yeah.
and when I have this, kasi if I'm not patient and I'm not compassionate, if I don't have this bias eternity towards Kairos, I'll get these people crazy. And say, I will demand, okay, dapat ganito, dapat eksakto, you have to be, and it might be counterproductive.
Correct.
They might be doing their best, but my timing is not realistic. No? So sometimes I have to be reminded, So what if I move it? What if I move the deadline? Will it, what am I catching anyway?
True.
Diba? So that's my concept of patience. If we look at it in terms of time, so my bias is for Kairos time. So this is the monk in me talking as a school leader. If it's, I don't know if it's helping, but from my experience, I think at least we're moving towards the direction that we have set ourselves to in this VUCA world. Because we're anchored, we're focused and anchored on our vision, on our mission. We're open to the dynamic creativity that we have to have. We're open to learning. We're agile and flexible.
Wonderful.
We're focused and creative. We're patient and compassionate.
Yeah. I wrote those down,
So-
Father. I wrote those down.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Father, I'd just like to recognize that we are being joined by the president of Romblon State University, Dr. Marian Mani, is in the room right now. Also, the president of OLOPS, Dr. Maida Samaniego, my dear friend. Thank you so much. Happy New Year. We also have the vice president of UNP, Vice President for Finance for the University of Northern Philippines, Dr. Antonio Agustin, a hero founder also. And of course, your vice president, the director, Dr. Kathleen Tiglao is also.
Kathleen Tiglao.
Yes, Dr. Kate is also here. And also, of course, Mr. Nikhil Chopra all the way from India is with us today. So yeah, thank you so much. Those are the hero members who have taken their time to join this conversation. If you have questions, dear friends from the hero group, please, we still have 10 more minutes with Father before we let him go. Please feel free to just ask your question. Thank you so much. Okay. Father, I would just like to ask this. My last question coming from me. What kind of message would be apt if you have something for somebody in the same possession like you do? What would be that message?
Yeah, okay. I'll I'll be imaginative, no? In this message, I hope you can relate to this image that I have for colleagues, no, that are leading schools in this VUCA world, no. And I'd like to use the image of an experience that I often go back to, no, which is coming from one of the things that I like doing, and that's driving. I like to do long haul drives, no? And one of my long haul drive experiences, one of my first long haul drive experiences, made me reflect on this, which I think is very apt as my message to school leaders in this VUCA world, no? In the mid-90s, when we were opening our campus in Taytay, Rizal, San Beda College, then now University Rizal, San Beda University Rizal, I went to pick up a good friend I decided to pick up a good friend who lived in Southern Leyte in the mid-90s and invite him to be one of the administrative officers of the basic education department. And I prepared myself. In the mid-90s, wala pa masyadong, hindi pa uso sa Pilipinas yung, what do you call that? The one that guides you on the road.
Waze.
Instead of,
Waze.
yeah, Waze, there's nothing of that sort.
GPS, Father.
Yeah, GPS.
Yes.
So I was dependent on maps. So I had to buy a map of the Philippines, no, at least Luzon and Visayas, because I wanted to drive along the Pan-Pacific Highway or Maharlika Highway from Manila to Southern Leyte, where my friend was. So it was my first long-haul drive experience, traversing the VUCA roads of the 90s in the Philippines.
Okay.
I had to make sure that my car was ready for it. Okay. And these are my insights, which I'd like to translate into my message and advice to other school leaders. One, focus on your destination. No? Have a clear vision of where you are going. Two, turn on your headlights and know when to put them on high beam, which means understand the road conditions ahead. So learn, look at your map, check, listen to the radio, and check if there are hazards along the road. At nighttime, make sure you put them on high beam when you're all alone, so you know in advance what's ahead. So, third, stop and rest to rejuvenate, and so that you are able to regain clarity of your vision to continue on your journey. So it's very important that you stop and rest to rejuvenate. And I would do that along the coastal part, the coastal highway, especially stop over at the small eateries and have a nice hot soup of tinola, which is at that time I realized could be fish. I used to think tinola was just chicken, but their tinola is fish. So and I really liked it. So I had to stop and rest to rejuvenate, to regain clarity of vision. And lastly, arrive safely. And because arriving safely will maintain your agility to be able to continue moving on to your next journey. And that would be to make my journey back to Manila with my friend. Okay, so that's my my message. Have a clear vision. That means focus on your destination. Turn on your headlights, put them on high beam. Try to understand the road conditions ahead. Learn. Stop and rest to rejuvenate so that you regain clarity of vision. And then arrive safely so that you make sure to maintain your agility to be able to move on and to go the next journey. So if you notice, it's vision, understanding, clarity, and agility. So which is also a VUCA world in response to volatility, uncertainty, chaos or complexity, and
Ambiguity. Ambiguity, Father.
Ambiguity. No, ambiguity. No, so it's VUCA. So I wish my fellow drivers along the educational highway in this VUCA highway, this VUCA road, that we be guided by these four things: vision, understanding, clarity, and agility. To help us, we must possess the qualities that we've mentioned above. No, being focused and creative, agile and flexible, patient and compassionate. For San Beda College, really, the pillars that really help us stand amid this VUCA world are the pillars of faith, knowledge, and virtue. Fides, Scientia, et Virtus. So that's it. I wish I was able to share things that are helpful for us in schools in facing the VUCA world that we are all in. Thank you so much, Bryce, for giving me this opportunity to share San Beda to the heroes of education.
Thank you, Father. This is truly an insightful and an inspired afternoon for me, and I'm sure for everyone who joined us, and for those who would watch this later as we premiere this video, Father. I know that they would agree with me when I say that it's like, listening to the best homilies of your life. So thank you so much. But more than that, Father, I know that you've enlightened us. I've learned a lot from you personally, and I would look into the Kairos perspective more than the Chronos perspective from now on. Thank you so much. I learned that. I'm gonna bring that home, that hit home for me. So thank you so much, Father. Thank you.
You're most welcome. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, Father. Dear friends, ladies and gentlemen, fellow hero educators, I would like to reiterate our request for you to tune in again next Friday. We'll be having the same kind of conversation with another hero leader. And the next Friday's coming, it's going to be hero conversations with the heroes of educations that we will invite, who would say yes to us, and we will keep developing good content for us so that we can grow, we can move forward, we can lead forward better, and whatever situation we can say we're winning not just for ourselves, but we're winning because our team is with us and we are totally into our vision moving forward. So thank you so much. This had been your host for Hero Ed TV. My name is Bryce Fabro. I am the Hero Chair. Thank you and good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Father Gerard, for this wonderful day. Thank you. Bye, everyone. God bless. Bye.